Okay, guys. That's not too bad. I think my gauge is a little screwed up too, because I just noticed that a minute ago, if I touched it, it was seeping down. So that's just a cheapie. I got to get a better one. But this is that 1981 Honda XL 250 that I've been talking about working on, and I just wanted to dig it out and kind of find out what all I needed here. I obviously need a couple throttle cables. Somebody stuck one on from another bike. I don't know what they got here, but some street bike or something, because that doesn't fit up in there obviously. And so the cables aren't right, and the other one, they had it really rigged up in the carburetor to make it work. And anyway, I just wanted to check the overall health of the engine. If I'm going to do a total restoration or reconditioning, refurbishing, whatever you want to call it, then I'll probably tear the motor down and hone it, put some rings in it, and reseal it, put all new gaskets on it and everything. Go that route. But the carburetor, woo, well, that's a rough looking thing. Sorry about the lighting as usual. I never have good lighting. Story of my life. I guess if I want good lighting, I got to go to Hollywood. But yeah, it's pretty rough. I don't think it's ever been opened up. It don't look like it. Screws don't look like they've ever been touched. So like I say, it does run. I can put gas in and it will run, but gas just pours out of every orifice of this carburetor. So yeah, it needs a little cleaning up and rebuild. So that is on the agenda. Numero uno. I'd like to ride it and make sure the thing rides good before I do too much work to it. But or like I say, I could just totally rebuild the damn thing and not worry about it, and everything will be right. So anyway, it just today I kind of was waiting on some parts to come in for XS650 I'm working on, and so I had a couple linger, and I got this Honda, and I got this Honda, which has got all kinds of little issues. Now the brakes been working on those. I got finally rebuilt the rear master cylinder, and it took a while to get them to prime up and start pumping up. And the back one's fine. I can bleed it. The front one was bleeding great, and then it just stopped bleeding. Like nothing will come out. So there's something jammed up in there, and the back one keeps sticking. So this thing's been sitting for I don't know how long. It's another barn find. So anyway, I'm gonna have to really exercise those brakes a lot to get them going really well. And then I'm back to working on this Harley as well. And where I left off on this is I had originally redid the fuel pump and the sending unit and everything in the tank, and then got the bike all back together. It started up and it ran perfect. Shut it off that day, came back in the next day, and what it would do is it would start, run for 10 seconds or less, and then it would just shut off, and it just would do that over and over and over. So it got put on the back burner because this customer ended up getting a pickup truck, a Dodge 1500, and it had a bad cylinder, so I ended up doing a motor swap in that for him, and this got on the back burner. Now he's went back to Pennsylvania, and I'd like to get this thing done and get it out of here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to solve this issue, get it up and running, and then I'm going to sell it for him, and that's going to be the end of that. He's not going to ride it anymore. He's elderly and he's been having some health issues. So, but anyway, what I did find out today was when I turned it on, now the pump wasn't running. And I'm like, oh, that's great, because that was a fiasco to begin with, trying to deal with that mess in there. But what I found out was it's not the pump, because I got a little connector here that goes to the pump. So I unhooked it, and then I got a couple of these little wires, these little jumper wires, and I jumped it to the pump, and the pump works fine. I believe I got a bad relay or something going on now with that, but we were having a little bit of trouble. We think the ECU might be a little screwy too. So I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to grab another relay and stick it in there and try it out anyway. This has been an ongoing thing for this poor guy. This thing's a mess. I believe this is the end of the era where they had a bunch of fuel injection stuff left over from the Evo days, and they just carried it on through their touring models and basically stuck it on this on their new twin cams. And the guy, he was having a little bit of trouble with it before, but then they blew the old motor, and so, oh, sorry about the jumping around. And so Harley sent him a new motor, a 1550, and when he installed it, he couldn't get the thing running right. He was having trouble. Took it back to Harley, and they had to remap the ECU to work with this motor. And then the bike sat again for a couple years, and I don't know what happened, if something might have happened to that ECU or whatever, or if it's simply just some gremlins I'll get worked out here. We're really not sure yet. But anyway, I'll finally get to the bottom of this. But what's going to happen is I finally had a tiny little bit of free time today to get on these lingering projects that have been around a while. And I haven't really got real far with any one particular one. And of course, now the parts came in for that XX650, and I'm going to need to get back on that thing right away. And then I got some parts coming in for this little, that little Coaster 125 that I got to get right back on that thing so I can get the bills paid. So what's going to happen is, as usual, I finally get to work on some of this stuff, and I'm making some headway. And then I got some other projects that I can get finished right away to go out the door to pay the bill. So that's probably what's going to happen. So anyway, kind of a crazy video once again, but just thought I'd update you guys. And I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with this thing yet. Like I say, this bike was originally bought along with this bike, not from the same guy, but one of my friends and customers, we kind of went in on these two. He put up the money to get them up front, which wasn't much for each one. And then I was going to do the work, and then we were going to flip them or build them or whatever. So these two could still end up either getting up and running and being flipped, and or building something out of them, you know, like a bobber out of that, and then just totally recondition this thing for the street, because this is street legal and I have a clear title. So that's what's really important about this bike. And it's got that old 23-inch front wheel and the shocks. I mean, it'd be a really cool little project. But anyway, all right guys, gonna jump off here. Got somebody coming in.